Hey everybody, and welcome back to Techstrong Unplugged. I'm your host, Natan Solomon, and this is episode 19 of our series. In this episode, we're taking you to ViewConf 2024. At ViewConf, our co-host Cassandra Chin met up with Will Marple, and they discussed the power of networking and AI. Will is a seasoned principal engineer at Black Airplane, and he highlights the pivotal role networking plays in launching and advancing a tech career. Without further ado, let's head over to ViewConf 2024.
Welcome back to Techstrong Unplugged. My name is Cassandra Chin, and today we have Will Marple with us here today.
Hi. Glad to be here. ViewConf, it's an exciting conference. So, as I understand it, we're going to talk a little bit about my background, and then we're going to speak a little bit about state of the tech landscape and job market as it relates to people getting started in their careers. So, I've been in the computer science industry in general for over 20 years. I've worked on both hardware and software side of things, done everything from build and manage complex server environments for both Windows and Unix environments, system administration, architected, managed networks, to development work. So I have a broad range of experience in my career. Currently, I'm a principal engineer at a company called Black Airplane, and I specialize in full stack web application development. Vue is my favorite front end framework, and that's what brings me here today. Speaking on Vue and machine learning, which we could talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, but to kind of talk about how I segued into full-time development from a mixture of IT work and development. I recently moved from Florida to Georgia, where I reside and work now for Black Airplane about 6 years ago. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's kind of a case in point for what I'm going to say in a few minutes, which is, I think networking, you can't escape that networking is your strongest vector by far to getting started in the industry. Like, all of the things that we talk about in the realm of learning and building and refining your skill set is only part of the picture. You know, I think the biggest part of the picture to getting that job that you want, regardless of where you are in your career, is going to likely come through your network. Because if you don't have the network, nobody knows how great of a person you are. Nobody knows how good you are at what you do. And nobody knows how great you are at learning new things, how flexible you are, whatever your great shining qualities are. Without the network, nobody knows about it. And if no one knows about it, no one's hiring you for it. So that's how I found my first job, was networking. It was literally my wife's aunt introduced me to my current boss and the owner of the company that I work for, which is really odd. It didn't happen at a tech conference or a meetup or anything like that.
You say networking, we really just mean talk to more people?
When I say networking, I mean, like, I feel like what I see happen often is people stay in their comfort zones. They don't get outside of the box. So I have a friend and a person I follow that I respect a lot, Taylor Desson. He's in the recruitment space in tech, and he said this thing, like, which I agree with wholeheartedly, which is, a lot of us go to the same tech meetups with the same people, and we sit there with those same people and listen to slides where the person may or may not know what they're talking about. We get indigestion from all the beer and pizza we ate, and we go home and we didn't meet anyone new. We didn't establish any new connections. So I don't know that it's that it's necessarily even where you're going, whether it's meetups, conferences, job fairs, whatever. It's what you're doing when you go there. I see so many people in tech not want to get outside their comfort zones, just stay in that same clique that they've always been in, that kind of thing. So I would say the biggest thing is be open, meet new people, introduce yourself. That's the only way that you're going to expand that network. If you're at a conference like this, another thing Taylor said, your goal should be to connect on LinkedIn with every single person here. And I know that that's uncomfortable, feels awkward and unattainable. You probably won't attain it. But if you don't have that lofty goal in your head, you're not going to be aggressive in connecting on LinkedIn, having those introductory conversations, introducing yourself, and also being interested in what they're about and what they're into, and making those interpersonal relationships.
Personally, I usually go to Java conferences. So going to this Vue JavaScript conference is really a different set of people.
It really is. Like, front-end people, they tend to be a little bit more gregarious because they are more on that creative, artistic. They're closer to the creative and the artistic, in that we are responsible for kind of bringing to life in code what creatives have created for us in Figma or whatever they've, have designed in, our designers. So yeah, this personality set definitely does tend to be more gregarious. So to your point, these kinds of meetups, you're going to get a better response probably because a lot of the people here are used to, like, they want to hang out, they want to meet new people, that kind of thing. So whereas at a Java conference or a .NET conference or something like that, it might be a little bit more of an effort.
They're happy in their community bubble.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great point too. Like, my talk here today is about Vue and machine learning, but I don't come from a data science and machine learning background. And the spirit of the talk really is more about, as an application developer, whether that be a JavaScript developer, a Java developer, or whatever it is, most of us that are building applications today, we don't get time in our day job to get exposure to AI machine learning technologies. But there's no escaping the fact that they are pervading our space at a rapid rate. And so the question becomes, like, I think a lot of us are feeling the landscape changing, and we feel that business requirements are going to increasingly come down the pipeline of, we want AI features in our applications. How do we do that? We have colleagues and other technologists in the landscape that are ramping up their efficiencies and workflows with AI technologies. How do we keep up with those things? And so really, it's not about the highs and lows of, like, oh, it's Devin this week, everybody's losing their job, or next week it's going to be GPT 4.0, and now everybody's excited again. We've got to kind of level those plains and valleys out and have a strategy of how do we start to gain familiarity? How do we learn how to build some AI features in our applications or workflows? So anyway, yeah,
How do you use AI yourself? Like, do you use Copilot to help code?
AI has been something that I've been adopting and interested in for, early on, I feel like. It's a field of study that's been around, of course, for decades, but recent advancements have kind of obviously created this current hype cycle. In my workflows, I've tried Copilot, Codium, SourceGraph, Cody AI, Cursor, I'm a JetBrains guy, so I've tinkered around with their new AI assistant. So for my workflows, I'd say there are two big ones. One is I rarely use Google anymore. I use Perplexity AI and Find, P-H-I-N-D. Perplexity does a great job.
When you say Google, do you mean web search or Gemini?
Sorry. Yeah, that's fair. Web search. So I do, to be fair, I do still use Google Web Search a little, but my go-to, my knee-jerk has become just go to Perplexity, because Perplexity is kind of like the next iteration on that of it does the Google search for you, and not just a Google search, it does a search across many different search engines, performs inference on those search engine result pages and what they link to, and then returns an intelligent result to you. And it's really good at certain tasks, like for instance, I want an example of how to implement, let's say I'm doing a Stripe payments integration. I say, show me how to implement a payment intent using Stripe elements with Stripe's API. And it's great at parsing through all the relevant documentation and distilling a very easy to understand code example of how to do exactly what you're asking. Saves tons of time. And on that note, Find, the place where Find kind of fits in, it's a competing service, but it's better at parsing docs. Perplexity is a better general purpose for that kind of thing. Find is exceptional at parsing docs and giving you easy to understand examples instead of you having to like weed through the docs and find the thing that you're looking for. Like you have a nice handy link of where like it referenced, and then a nice description and example of how to do a thing.
I think it can be really hard to find the right AI for the right purpose.
It can be, but Perplexity and Find as like high-level technologies in a workflow, just trying to kind of advance that mechanism of what I would do with a traditional search engine, I think is a great place to start, to ideate. Like, I need to write a conference talk. Here are my rough outline points. Like, help me flesh out some slide content. You don't want, like, responsible use of AI. Like, you don't want to just slap it in your code editor or in your conference slides and call it a day, because AI is not great at being you. There's still that human element. Like, you want to introduce the spirit of what you want to say, your tone, your thoughts on the matter. But I find it's a fantastic jumping off point. A lot of times it just triggers that creativity in my brain. When it takes a stab at something, I go, no, it's not really what I want, but now I know what I want, and I'll go after it.
One interesting thing is in school systems right now, like college programs, they forbid the use of AI. And compared to that, workplaces are like, use it as much as possible.
Except for in the interview process, right? So because like, I feel like I hear all the time about people in our space where I got turned down from a job because I was using Copilot in my take-home test or whatever, or it's some sort of proctored code along thing where like they're putting excessive effort in to make sure you don't quote unquote cheat, and yet everyone who's in a role writing production code every day, they're all using this tooling. So they're like, to your point, in education and in the interview process, there's a big disconnect between that and reality, because I think unless you're in a field where privacy is a huge concern, and you can't just use most commonly available coding assistants, you should be. Like, why wouldn't you be? At bare minimum, tools like Copilot that try to finish your sentences save you tons of time writing boilerplate for you. You're not necessarily going to accept every solution that's provided to you, but there's a lot of cases where boilerplate becomes a thing of the past. So yeah, 100% agree. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think it's a slow boat to turn. You know, I think that some traditional constructs in our reality, like traditional education, higher education institutions, like businesses that have been around for a long time that have like what they would consider tried and true traditional interviewing, talent acquisition processes, that boat is going to be slow to turn for them to realize, like, oh, we've been doing it all wrong. We should let them practice like they're actually going to play the game and show us what they can do.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Do you have any more like pointers for people who want to network and like try to get into the industry?
I would say consider your personal friendship world. Like, how did you establish those friendships? How did you meet those people? What do your ongoing friendships and relationships look like? Like, take time to ponder and consider those mechanisms, and then take that into your thought process. Like, people tend to think that professional relationships are wildly different than personal relationships, and they're really not. Like, even in our professional worlds, like, we spend more time with the people that we work with, for most of us that work 40-hour careers weekly, than we do with our families and our friends. And so how important are those relationships? They're just as important as our personal, we are helping each other grow. We're caring about what's going on in each other's personal lives. We're supporting each other's success. If we work together, I'm only helping myself if I put your best interests at heart, if I invest in you, if I, if you work in tech for any period of time, you'll have that unfortunate experience of being in kind of a toxic culture where people are afraid to not know something because they're afraid of being viewed as silly or what have you. And I think in our professional networking and professional relationship building, you're just looking to make business friends, really. It's not that hard, but I think we overcomplicate it. You're just looking to have that one thing in common with something. If I were to meet you, for example, I would start to dig in. Like, I noticed you had something that was like anime related on your phone. Like, if I were in anime, I'd say, hey, are you in anime? Like, what do you like? What are your favorite films? What are your favorite characters?
Connect as people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking to have that thing in common because the tech stuff, we're all looking for a break, I think, from the tech stuff. It's nice to have that brief interruption from it and to talk about something. I'm into guitar and music. Like, if you realize that, you'd be like, oh man, I'm into guitar too. What are your favorite bands? That kind of thing. You're looking to have those kind of interactions. And then once that's established, then you can start to talk about, like, how can I help you in your career? How can you help me in my career? Where are you at? Who do I know that I really feel like I should introduce you to? I'm not going to do that until you've established trust and credibility with me. And we're not going to do that until we have something in common.
I think you brought up some really good points about how we're all just people.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about a lot of great things today. So thank you, Will.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.